Before I get to anything in this video, I just want to issue a spoiler warning for everything I talk about. This is all spoiler sensitive, and if you've not seen Avengers Endgame, click away now or avoid having the whole movie ruined. Alright, you guys still here? Awesome, let's start the video. With the release of Avengers Endgame, the tale of the MCU, or at least the story they set out from in the very beginning, has finally come to a close. This grand finale not only gave an ending to the storyline, but to all of the characters in it. The entire original main Avengers team all got endings to their characters. Hawkeye gets reunited with his family, Cap gets to live a normal life, the Hulk and Bruce Banner become like Chad Hulk, Black Widow sacrifices herself in order to protect the people she loves, and the most tragic of all, Tony Stark sacrificing himself in order to snap Thanos out of existence. Now this is what I would call the climax of the movie. His now famous line, "I am Iron Man," followed by one of the hardest scenes to watch in any movie ever, as we watch this character that we fell in love with for over 11 years die in front of our eyes. Now whether or not you support Tony's death or think they should have kept him alive or think it was satisfying or not, that's not the point. Because in this video, we're talking about something else. All of the foreshadowing that went into this decision. And it's pretty heavy, so let me explain. There's been a long-standing theory in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that Tony will wield the gauntlet at the end of Endgame. And that's exactly what we got. These theories were correct. That's because of the alarming amount of things that happen to Tony's left arm. Now, I know that kind of sounds goofy, and I thought it did too when I first heard it, but the evidence is pretty overwhelming. If you go to the very first Iron Man movie, there's a case to be made for the opening shot of the film, which is his arm. Also, his arm getting stuck in a cave when he was wearing the original Iron Man suit. His arm catches on fire in the racetrack in Iron Man 2. This arm has gotten beaten, attacked, and even completely crushed by the Hulk. Not to mention the now infamous scene where he talks about his left arm feeling numb and whether or not that's normal. Not to mention the amount of times he just holds it suspiciously. In Homecoming, we see his hand shaking. So there's definitely a case to be made that they were trying to tell us something about Tony's arm. There's just too many occurrences for this to be a complete coincidence. But the biggest thing that put a hole in this theory for a while and still is questionable right now to whether this theory was actually foreshadowing or not is the fact that most of the time his arm that was getting injured was his left arm. In fact, it's known as the left arm theory. So it made sense before this movie that he would wield the Infinity Gauntlet with his left arm. But now that the movie came out and we have seen him wield the Infinity Gauntlet, he's holding it in his right arm. A complete 180 from what fans were expecting. Does that mean that this entire theory was false and we were just speculating? Maybe all of these occurrences are coincidences. I mean, I admit some of them are stretches. And you could look at instances where any part of his body gets repeatedly destroyed. I mean, he's Iron Man. He fights in like every movie he's in. So there's definitely some skepticism that I think should be allowed with this theory. Although you can look at the fact that he wielded the Infinity Gauntlet at all as proof that this was foreshadowing and this theory is correct. And that's how I choose to look at it. The only thing that's left is to explain why it's his right arm instead of his left arm. Well, if you go back to the first time Tony Stark ever wielded the Infinity Gauntlet, it was in the comics. And he wasn't facing off against Thanos, but he was facing off against a pretty formidable foe. In that comic, he stopped somebody from assembling the Infinity Stones again, but found himself wearing the glove this time, and it was on his right arm, the same arm he uses in Endgame. Tony eventually breaks up the Infinity Stones after that, and thankfully does not go power hungry. But in the movie, his fate is actually a lot darker and a lot more tragic, seeing as he doesn't survive the snap at all. So maybe he was always meant to wield the Infinity Gauntlet. All of that foreshadowing was just reading into things too much, and the only evidence we really needed was this comic. But I don't think that's the case either. I just can't shake how many times his arm has been mentioned or injured or attacked throughout this entire franchise. I think the answer actually lies with Thanos. Thanos, the iconic villain who originally assembled all 6 stones, wields them on his left arm. So there's a case to be made that maybe they wanted Tony to be the mirror image of Thanos, the good guy versus the bad guy. So when he has the Infinity Gauntlet, it's on his right hand, maybe the right side. I mean, that's kind of stupid, but hey, it fits. Also, you can't forget the most important thing. Tony made this gauntlet himself for them to use. It wasn't like Thanos' case where he had somebody make it for him. Tony built this with his team in mind, and probably himself in mind, inevitably. He made it for the right arm. There's a couple explanations here. Maybe he's right-handed. Maybe the plan was for it to be Tony's left arm when he wielded it, but when they put it on Thanos' left arm, they decided to change it at the last minute to make that whole good versus bad thing just more apparent. I mean, film's all about visual metaphors. Or maybe us, the fans ourselves, assigned the left arm specifically just too much. Maybe it was always just meant to be Tony's arms getting screwed up. The only thing that would stop this theory from being true is the line where he literally says his left arm. But I think the bottom line is they definitely foreshadowed Tony using the Infinity Gauntlet. And whether or not they had to change it at the last minute, or it was never meant to be a specific arm, it just shows how many layers there are to this entire cinematic universe and Endgame and Infinity War in general. But no matter what arm he wears it on, one thing is true. He's definitely Iron Man. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. Is this theory stupid? Do you think it was wrong? Do you think this proves it? Let us know in those comments down below. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can support us on Patreon or become a member of the channel and get exclusive access to scripts and avatars. As always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it, subscribe to the Roundtable to stay in the loop with all things animation, guys. I'm MikeCatSU. This was an Avengers Endgame theory, and I'll see you next time. Peace.